The rain fell like divine punishment over the Han River, each drop hammering against the concrete barrier with a violence that matched the storm raging inside Sade Adeyemi's chest. It was 2 in the morning, the kind of hour when Seoul felt like it belonged only to ghosts and broken people, and she supposed she qualified as both now. Her fingers trembled as they clutched the crumpled note, the ink bleeding now from rain and tears until Kwon Min-ho's final words were nothing but blue streaks across paper. 3 months since she'd found him in their apartment. 3 months since the police had ruled it an accident. An overdose mixed with alcohol, they'd said. 3 months of living a lie while the loan sharks circled closer and closer. 847 million won. That's what her dead husband's secrets cost. What his midnight gambling sessions and desperate cryptocurrency bets had accumulated in the shadows of their marriage. The tech startup she'd built with her own hands, the app that connected African diaspora entrepreneurs across Asia, it would be seized tomorrow. The foreclosure notice sat in her bag, final as a death sentence. Welcome back to Afro-Korean Soul Stories. If this is your first time here, drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our weekly stories. Trust me, you'll want to see where this one goes. She stood at the river's edge, not because she wanted to jump. God, no. She had a 6-year-old son sleeping at her sister's apartment who needed her. But she needed to feel something bigger than her own destruction. The wind whipped her dark curls across her face, and she closed her honey-brown eyes, letting the rain wash over her like a baptism she didn't deserve. That's when she heard it. The purr of an expensive engine, smooth and predatory, cutting through the storm. Headlights swept across the darkness, and Sade turned, squinting against the brightness. A sleek black Genesis GV80 pulled up along the riverside road, so out of place in this desolate hour that for a moment she thought she was hallucinating. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, and even through the rain, even in the darkness, Sade felt the air change. He was tall, powerfully built, moving with the kind of confidence that came from owning everything he touched. A black suit clung to his athletic frame, and as he came closer, she saw his face. Devastatingly handsome in a way that felt almost cruel. Sharp jawline, high cheekbones, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through skin and bone. His wavy shoulder-length hair was already plastered to his face from the rain, but he didn't seem to care. Sade Adeyemi Sasai, he said, his voice low and smooth, speaking her name with a precision that made her shiver. His Korean was flawless, but there was something in the way he looked at her that suggested he knew exactly who she was, where she came from, everything about her. I've been looking for you. Sade's heart kicked against her ribs. She took a step back, closer to the edge. Who are you? Nam Hyun-seok. He said it like she should know the name, like it should mean something. And bad as she wanted it not to, it did. Nam Technologies, the empire that owned half of Seoul's tech infrastructure, the AI and fintech billionaire whose face occasionally graced Forbes Asia with headlines about his ruthless acquisition strategies. And you're standing in the rain at 2 in the morning, shaking like a leaf, about to lose everything you have. His dark eyes tracked her every movement. I own your debt now, Sade. All 847 million won of it. The world tilted. She'd known someone had bought the debt from the original collectors, some faceless corporation. But this man, this devastatingly beautiful predator, he owned her destruction. Come to gloat. Her voice came out sharper than intended, fury mixing with desperation. Something flickered in his dark eyes, something she couldn't read. He took another step closer, and she noticed he was getting soaked, rain running down the sharp planes of his face. He didn't seem to care. Get in the car, Sade. You're soaked. You're shaking. And if I'm going to make you an offer, I'd prefer you conscious to hear it. An offer? She laughed, the sound brittle and broken. What kind of offer could you possibly make? He extended his hand, palm up, rain pooling in it. The kind that saves your son's future. The kind that gives you a way out. But we're not having this conversation in a storm. Get in the car. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But where would she go? Back to her sister Yowanda's cramped apartment where Taiwo was sleeping, to explain that tomorrow they'd lose everything? To her office to watch them chain the doors on the business she'd spent 5 years building? She looked at Nam Hyun-seok's extended hand, at the Genesis's warm interior visible behind him, and she thought about her son's face when he'd asked why they had to leave their home. Sade took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm despite the rain, strong enough that she felt claimed just from that single touch. He led her to the car, opened the passenger door, and the blast of heat that hit her face felt like stepping into another world. Leather seats, the smell of expensive cologne, dashboard lights glowing soft blue. She slid in and he closed the door with a soft click that sounded like a prison cell locking. He came around, settled into the driver's seat, and suddenly the space felt too small. He was too big, too present, too everything. His wavy hair dripped water onto his collar, and she watched a droplet trail down his neck, disappearing beneath his shirt. Hyansuk shrugged off his suit jacket and handed it to her without a word. Sade stared at it, at the obvious expense of the fabric, then at him. "I'll ruin it. I have 30 more. Not a request. A statement." She wrapped it around her shoulders and God. It smelled like him, like sandalwood and something darker, something that made her think of silk sheets and bad decisions. The car pulled away from the river's edge, and Sade watched the barrier disappear in the rearview mirror. "Where are we going?" "My place. We need privacy for this conversation." Hyansuk's hands were steady on the wheel, and she noticed his knuckles were scarred in a way that suggested he'd hit things, or people, before. "Tell me about Taiwo, your son." Her blood went cold. "How do you know my son's name?" He glanced at her, those dark eyes unreadable. "I make it my business to know everything about my investments." He's 6, obsessed with K-pop and anime. Currently believes his father died in a car accident because you're a good mother who doesn't want him to know the truth. He paused. What actually happened to his father? Sade's hands clenched into fists. "You had me investigated." "Yes, for months." He said it without shame, without apology. "I know everything, Sade." "That's insane. Call it whatever you like." The Genesis turned onto Gangnam's waterfront toward the gleaming high-rises that overlooked the Han River. "I don't make offers without research." They pulled into an underground garage, all concrete and echoing silence, and Hyansuk parked in a spot marked, reserved, penthouse. The elevator ride up was quiet except for the hum of machinery and Sade's racing heart. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the fear was something else. Something hot and forbidden that made her skin prickle every time Hyansuk stood too close. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse, and Sade stepped into a space that looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Seoul skyline. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her entire apartment. Everything beautiful and cold and completely impersonal. "Sit." Hyansuk gestured to a leather sofa. "I'll get you something to drink." He poured 2 glasses of whiskey, amber liquid catching the city lights, and set one in front of her on the glass coffee table. Then he settled into the chair across from her, close enough that she could see the water still clinging to his eyelashes, and steepled his fingers. "Let me lay this out simply. I need an heir. My cousin Nam Jae-sung is attempting a hostile takeover of Nam Technologies. The board has given me an ultimatum. Produce a biological child and secure my bloodline within 30 days, or they vote me out and hand my empire to him." Sade stared at him. "What does that have to do with me? You need your debt erased and your company returned. I need a woman to carry my child." He said it like he was discussing a business merger, clinical and cold. "Live with me for 30 days. Share my bed. Carry my child. In exchange, the 847 million won disappears. Your startup transfers back to your name, debt-free, and you receive 500 million won in your account the day you conceive." The room spun. Sade grabbed the whiskey and downed it in one burning swallow. "You want to buy me? I want to make a transaction. You give me what I need. I give you everything you need." Hyansuk leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and those dark eyes pinned her in place. "It's just business, Sade. Business." Her voice cracked. "You're asking me to sleep with you? To get pregnant with your child? And you call that business? What would you call it? She stood, fury propelling her to her feet. Prostitution, surrogacy, insanity. Take your pick. Hyansuk stood too, and suddenly he was in her space, towering over her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off his body. The tension between them was electric, dangerous. I call it survival. You can leave right now, keep your pride intact, go back to your sister's apartment and explain to Taiwo tomorrow why men are seizing everything you've built for him. Or you can sign a contract, give me 30 days, and walk away with everything you need to build a life. I barely know you. You'll get to know me very well. His voice dropped, intimate and dark. His eyes traced her face, her lips, the curve of her neck exposed where his jacket had slipped. Very intimately. Sade's breath caught. She looked up at him, at this beautiful predator offering her a devil's bargain, and thought about Taiwo's face. About her startup, the partnerships with African businesses across Asia, the dream she'd built from nothing. About the crushing weight of debt that had been choking her for 3 months. Why me? Something flickered across Hyansuk's face, too fast to read. Heat, possession, something almost vulnerable before his mask slipped back into place. Because you're perfect for what I need. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. He walked to his desk, pulled out a contract easily 30 pages thick, and set it down with a heavy thud. Read it. Every word. I'll give you an hour. Sade approached the contract like it might bite her. The first page was simple. Parties involved, date ranges, compensation structure. The second page made her stomach drop. Exclusivity clause. Party B, Sade Adeyemi, will reside with Party A, Nam Hyun-seok, for 30 consecutive days. Physical intimacy clause. Party B will share Party A's bed and engage in sexual relations for the purpose of conception. Asterisk compensation terms. All debts erased. Property/business returned. 500 million KRW transferred upon confirmed pregnancy. Asterisk. Her hands shook as she flipped through page after page. Medical care provided. Non-disclosure agreement. Custody arrangements. If conception occurred, she would carry to term, but Hyansuk would have primary custody with visitation rights negotiated separately. You want to take my baby? The words tasted like ash. Hyansuk was pouring himself another whiskey, his back to her. The muscles shifted beneath his shirt as he moved. I want an heir. But I'm not a monster, Sade. Look at clause 18. She found it, her vision blurring with tears. If the mother wishes to maintain a relationship with the child, joint custody arrangements will be made in good faith, with the mother's housing and financial needs provided for in perpetuity. You'd let me see my own child. How generous. The sarcasm dripped like poison. I'd let you be a mother, which is more than you'll be able to do when you're homeless and broke. Hyansuk's voice was hard now, businesslike. I'm not the villain here, Sade. I'm offering you a way out of a hole you didn't dig. Your husband was weak. He made bad choices. He left you to deal with the consequences. He came to stand beside her, looking down at the contract. Close enough that she could smell his cologne again, feel the heat of his body. I'm giving you a choice he never did. Power. Agency. A way to save everything that matters to you. Sade looked at the pen sitting next to the contract, expensive and heavy. What if I can't get pregnant in 30 days? Then we part ways. You keep the company. The debt's still erased. But you don't get the 500 million. His hand came to rest on the desk beside hers, not touching but close enough that she felt claimed anyway. But I'm betting you can. You're young, healthy, fertile. You already proved that with Taiwo. This is insane. This is business. He turned to face her fully, and she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Stop calling it that. She whirled on him, and suddenly they were inches apart, her chest heaving, his eyes blazing with something that made her breath catch. You're asking me to let you, a complete stranger inside my body, to create a life, to give you a child. That's not business. That's. Hyansuk's hand came up, fingers trailing along her jawline so softly it felt like a whisper. The touch sent electricity racing down her spine. That's what, Sadia? The informal address, the intimacy of it, made her knees weak. That's? She couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't think past the way his thumb was now tracing her lower lip, the calloused pad catching slightly on the soft skin. Let me be clear about what you're signing. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but every word landed like a brand. When you sign this contract, you become mine for 30 days. Mine to touch, mine to taste, mine to take whenever I want, however I want, until my child is growing inside you. Heat exploded through her body, shocking and unwelcome and undeniable. She jerked back, but her retreat was stopped by the desk. You're insane. I agree. He didn't follow her, just watched with those predator eyes. I won't lie to you about what this is. I need an heir. I want you. This arrangement satisfies both needs. He glanced at his watch. Sign or don't. But decide now, because my offer expires when the sun comes up. If you're hooked, drop a like right now and let me know in the comments. Would you take this deal? Keep watching because what happens next will have your heart racing. Sade looked at the contract, at the pen, at this devastating man offering her salvation wrapped in sin. She thought about Minho's note, about how he'd taken the coward's way out and left her to burn. She thought about Taiwo's innocent face, about the startup that represented everything she'd sacrificed to build. She picked up the pen. Hyansuk watched her sign each page, his dark eyes tracking every movement of her hand, and she swore she saw something possessive flash across his face when her signature appeared on the final page. He countersigned with swift efficiency, then placed the contract in his desk drawer and locked it with a decisive click. You'll move in tomorrow, he said, back to business, but his voice had gone rougher. My driver will collect you at noon. Bring whatever you need, clothes, personal items. Taiwo will stay with your sister as planned. Sade nodded. Her voice lost somewhere in her throat. Good. Hyansuk pulled out a black card and held it out to her. Buy whatever you need. You're mine now, and I don't do shabby. She took the card with numb fingers. The weight of it felt obscene. Hyansuk stepped closer, and his hand came up to catch her chin, tilting her face up to his. His thumb brushed across her lower lip again, more deliberately this time. A touch so intimate it made her core clench. Just so we're clear, Sade, when I say you'll share my bed, I don't mean you'll sleep in the guest room and I'll politely knock. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating as he looked at her mouth. I mean you'll sleep in my bed, right under my body, and I'll take you whenever I want. Morning, noon, or in the middle of the night when I wake up hard and hungry for you. Her breath hitched. She couldn't speak, couldn't think past the heat in his eyes, the promise in his words. Do you understand? His voice was velvet over steel. She swallowed hard. I understand. Say it properly. I understand. I'll share your bed. The words felt like surrender, like stepping off a cliff with no idea if there would be ground to catch her. His smile was slow and predatory, satisfaction gleaming in those dark eyes. Good girl. He released her chin but didn't step back. Instead, his fingers trailed down her throat, feeling her pulse hammering there. Tomorrow night when you move in, don't wear anything to bed. I won't let you keep it on anyway. Then he stepped back, breaking the spell, and Sade could finally breathe again. My driver will take you home. Get some sleep, Sade. His eyes traveled down her body with deliberate slowness, making her hyper-aware of every curve, every inch of skin. You're going to need it. The ride back to Yowanda's apartment passed in a blur. Sade sat in the back of the Genesis, wrapped in Hyansuk's jacket that still smelled like him, the black card burning in her pocket, and wondered what she'd just done. Sold herself. Sold her body. Signed a contract to let a stranger, a beautiful, dangerous stranger, use her for 30 days. She touched her flat stomach and thought, what kind of mother am I? The kind who survives, she answered herself. The kind who does whatever it takes. The next day moved like a dream. Sade packed a single suitcase, her hands shaking the entire time. She held Taiwo tight before leaving him with Yowanda, breathing in his little boy's smell of sunshine and innocence. Mommy has to work, baby. I'll see you very soon. Where are you going? His dark eyes, so like his father's, looked up at her with complete trust. Just helping someone with their business. I'll call you every day. Okay? She kissed his forehead and left before he could see her cry. The Genesis arrived at exactly noon. The driver, a stoic man who introduced himself simply as Park, loaded her single suitcase with the kind of efficiency that suggested he'd done this before. Had there been other women? Other desperate souls who'd signed Nam Hyun-seok's contracts? The penthouse looked different in daylight, less like a fortress and more like a beautiful prison. A woman waited by the elevator, late 30s, sharply dressed with eyes that missed nothing. Sade Adeyemi. I'm Kim Ji-won, Hyansuk Nim's personal assistant. He's requested I show you to the master suite. Sade followed her through the sprawling space, past the living room with its panoramic views of Seoul, past a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a cooking show, down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than her entire education. Ji-won opened double doors at the end, and Sade's breath caught. The bedroom was enormous. A massive bed dominated the space, dressed in black silk sheets that looked like sin-made fabric. Tall windows overlooked the Han River, the water sparkling in the afternoon sun. A fireplace, beautiful furniture, and everywhere the sense of Hyansuk, his scent, his presence, his ownership. Hyansuk Nim will be home at 8, Ji-won said, her voice professionally neutral. He's requested you wait for him here. The closet has been stocked with clothing in your size. The bathroom is through that door. If you need anything, press 9 on any phone. Then she left and Sade was alone in Nam Hyun-seok's bedroom, in the space where he slept, where he would, her mind shied away from the thought but it came anyway, where he would claim her tonight. She explored like a prisoner memorizing her cell. The closet was a room unto itself, and true to his word, it was full of clothes. Designer labels she recognized from magazines, dresses and blouses and pants and lingerie, all in her size. How had he known? The surveillance, she remembered. He'd been watching her for months. The bathroom was marble and chrome, with a shower big enough for 4 people and a tub that could double as a swimming pool. She showered, scrubbing off the previous night's rain and fear, and tried not to think about what was coming. At 7:45, she stood in front of the closet wrapped in a towel, staring at the nightgowns and negligées hanging like silent accusations. Don't wear anything to bed, he'd said. I won't let you keep it on anyway. But she couldn't. She wasn't ready. She needed some barrier between her skin and his hands, even if it was just silk and lace. She chose a simple white nightgown, modest, high-necked, armor disguised as sleepwear. At 8:03, the bedroom door opened. Hyansuk stepped in, and Sade's heart kicked into a gallop. He looked different from last night, if possible even more devastating. Dark slacks, white shirt with the sleeves rolled up revealing muscular forearms, his wavy hair pushed back from his face. His tie was loosened like he'd been pulling at it. When his dark eyes found her standing by the window, he smiled. Not warmly, predatory. You wore clothes to bed. He closed the door behind him with a soft click. I'm disappointed. Sade lifted her chin, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. I'm not going to parade around naked for you. Hyansuk's smile widened as he shrugged off his jacket, draping it over a chair with casual grace. The movement made his shoulders flex beneath the thin shirt. You misunderstand. I don't want you to parade. I want you bare because I'm going to strip you anyway, and I don't like wasting time. Each word was measured, deliberate, as he crossed the room toward her with that predatory grace. Take it off, Sade, or I will. You know, you don't have to act like a psychopath, Sade blurted out before she could stop herself. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I'm paying 847 million won for you. I'd say I'm quite sane. His fingers came up to toy with the strap of her nightgown, and even that light touch made her shiver. Last chance. The air between them crackled with tension so thick she could barely breathe. Sade's hands trembled as they reached for the hem of her nightgown. She thought about Taiwo, about her startup, about survival. She pulled the fabric over her head in one swift motion and let it drop to the floor. Stood before him bare, skin prickling in the cool air, chin lifted in defiance even as shame and something far more dangerous burned through her. There. Happy? Hyansuk's eyes went molten. He circled her slowly, like a predator assessing prey, and she felt his gaze on every inch of her skin, the curve of her breasts, the dip of her waist, the flare of her hips, the soft curls at the apex of her thighs. Not yet, he murmured, coming to stand behind her. His breath was warm against her neck, making goosebumps rise. But I will be. Very soon. His hands settled on her waist, large and warm and possessive, and Sade's breath stuttered. The heat of his palms seemed to brand her skin. He pulled her back against his chest, and she could feel every hard plane of his body through his clothes, could feel the evidence of his arousal pressing against her lower back. You're trembling, he whispered against her ear, his lips barely brushing the sensitive skin there. Fear or anticipation? Both, she admitted, because there was no point in lying. Her body was already betraying her, nipples hardening, heat pooling low in her belly. Honest. I like that. His hands slid up her ribcage, maddeningly slow, until they cupped her breasts. His thumbs brushed over her, and Sade gasped, her head falling back against his shoulder. I'm going to learn everything about your body tonight, Sade. Every sound you make. Every place that makes you shake. Every way to make you beg. I won't beg, she managed, though her voice sounded breathless even to her own ears. He laughed, low and dark, the sound vibrating through his chest into her back. Yes, you will. Before you continue, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Part 2 is coming next week, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when these two finally collide. Comment below. Team Sade or Team Hyansuk? Hyansuk turned her in his arms and walked her backward toward the bed, his eyes never leaving hers, dark with promise and possession. When the backs of her knees hit the mattress, he pushed, gentle but firm, and she fell onto black silk that was cool against her heated skin. He followed her down, bracing himself above her, caging her with his body. The full weight of what she'd agreed to hit her then. This wasn't fantasy. This was real. This man was going to touch her, claim her, take her. You're mine for 30 days, Sade. His hand trailed down her stomach, between her thighs, and she jerked at the intimate touch even as liquid heat flooded her core. And I'm going to make sure every part of you remembers who you belong to. His fingers explored her with confident precision, finding her already wet despite her protests, despite her shame. One long finger slid through her, circling her entrance before pressing inside, and Sade couldn't stop the moan that escaped her lips. Your body's more honest than your mouth, Hyansuk said, satisfaction clear in his voice. He added another finger, stretching her, his thumb finding that sensitive bundle of nerves that made her back arch off the bed. Then he caught both her wrists in one hand. His grip was firm but not painful, and pinned them above her head. The position arched her body, offered her breasts to his gaze, left her completely exposed and vulnerable. His other hand continued its devastating work between her legs, fingers curling inside her, finding spots that made stars burst behind her eyes. That's it, he murmured against her lips, not quite kissing her, just sharing breath. Stop fighting. Let me have you. Sade tried to hold on to her anger, her fear, but her body betrayed her completely. Her hips lifted into his touch, chasing pressure, chasing relief. She heard herself making sounds, desperate, pleading sounds, and hated herself for it even as pleasure built like a wave threatening to drown her. Look at me, Hyansuk commanded, and her eyes flew open. I want to watch you fall apart. He curled his fingers, pressing some spot inside her that made her back arch off the bed, and the orgasm hit like lightning. Sade shattered, crying out, her body clenching around his fingers as pleasure rolled through her in devastating waves. Hyansuk watched her the entire time, his dark eyes drinking in every expression, every gasp, every tremor, possessive and hungry and satisfied. When she finally went limp, trembling and boneless, He withdrew his hand and brought his fingers to his mouth, tasting her. His eyes never left hers. Delicious. The casual intimacy of it made something clench in her. He released her wrists and stood, and she watched through heavy-lidded eyes as he unbuttoned his shirt. The fabric parted to reveal a chest that looked carved from marble, all defined muscle and golden skin. A scar ran along his ribs, white and puckered, evidence of violence in his past. When he unbuckled his belt, the sound of leather sliding through loops made her stomach clench with anticipation and apprehension. He stripped efficiently, no show, just pure masculine confidence. And when he was finally bare, Sade couldn't help but stare. He was beautiful everywhere, powerfully built. Fear spiked through the haze of pleasure. He was big, maybe too big. Hyansuk settled between her, his weight pressing her into the mattress, and positioned himself at her entrance. He caught her chin, forcing her to look at him. "I'm going to take you now, Sade. I'm going to fill you, claim you, make you mine in every way." He pushed forward, stretching her, and his jaw clenched with restraint. "I will only stop when my air is in you." He entered her slowly, deliberately, watching her face as her body struggled to accommodate him. He was big, bigger than Minho had been, and the stretch burned even as something dark and forbidden inside her thrilled at being taken, claimed, owned. "Breathe," Hyansuk commanded, and she realized she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled shakily, and he pushed deeper, inch by relentless inch, until he was fully seated inside her. The feeling of fullness was overwhelming, almost too much. They both groaned. He stayed still for a moment, letting her adjust, his forehead pressed to hers. "You feel like heaven wrapped around me, Sade." Then he started to move. Long, deep strokes that lit up every nerve ending. His hands were everywhere, claiming, possessing, learning her body like he'd promised. He whispered things against her skin, his voice rough with need. "That's it. Take all of me. You were made for this. Made to take every inch of me. Don't hold back those sounds, Sade. I want to hear you scream my name." The pleasure built again, impossible and overwhelming. And Sade found her hands digging into his back, her legs wrapping around his waist. She hated that it felt good, hated that her body responded to him like it had been waiting for this, for him. But she couldn't stop. The release caught her off guard, slamming into her with brutal intensity. Sade screamed his name, torn from her throat against her will, and felt Hyansuk follow with a guttural groan, his body going rigid as he spilled inside her, hot and deep and claiming. He collapsed on top of her, both of them breathing hard, sweat slicking their skin. After a moment, Hyansuk rolled to his side and pulled her against his chest, his hands splaying possessively over her stomach. "Sleep," he murmured into her hair, his voice already roughening with renewed desire. "We're doing this again in a few hours." Sade lay in the darkness, trapped in the cage of his arms, feeling his release inside her, and tried not to cry. What had she become? But Hyansuk's hand on her stomach was warm, and his breathing evened out into sleep. And despite everything, the manipulation, the contract, the sale of her body, Sade felt safer than she had in 3 months. She drifted off wondering what that said about her, and what it meant that even now, part of her was already anticipating when he would wake and reach for her again. The next 4 days passed in a blur of silk sheets and gasped breaths and Hyansuk's hands on her skin. He took her every night, sometimes twice, once in the morning before he left for work with his hand clamped over her mouth to muffle her cries. He was insatiable, and her body, the traitorous thing that it was, responded every time. But there were other things too, things that confused her. There was ginger tea waiting every morning, prepared exactly how she liked it. The way he adjusted the heat when he noticed her shivering. A video call he arranged with Taiwo without being asked, letting her see her son's smiling face while Hyansuk worked quietly in the background, giving them privacy but staying close. On day 5, Sade stood in the doorway of Hyansuk's home office and watched him eviscerate an executive over the phone. His voice was surgical, precise, destroying the man with businesslike efficiency. "If you can't deliver results, Manager Lee, I'll find someone who can. Clean out your desk. He hung up without waiting for a response, his jaw tight with barely contained fury. That night, Sade tried to create distance. She was terrified by the way her heart jumped when she heard his key in the door, by the way she found herself listening for his footsteps, anticipating his touch. This was a transaction. She couldn't afford to feel anything. But at dinner, Hyansuk noticed immediately. His dark eyes tracked her movements as she pushed food around her plate, as she avoided his gaze. Why are you pulling away? I'm not. He set down his chopsticks with deliberate precision. You're lying. Stop calling me a liar. Then stop lying. Hyansuk stood, walked around the table with that predatory grace, and pulled her chair out. He lifted her easily, setting her on the table, plates and glasses shifting with the movement. You've barely looked at me all day. You think I don't notice? Sade's hands pushed at his chest, feeling the solid muscle beneath his shirt. What do you want from me, Hyansuk? You bought me. You own me for 30 days. I'm giving you my body. What more could you possibly want? His hands gripped her face, forcing her to meet his blazing eyes. The intensity there stole her breath. I want you to stop pretending you don't feel this. He kissed her hard, demanding, stealing her breath and her resistance. I want you to admit that when I touch you, you burn. That when I'm inside you, you forget to hate me. The truth of it, the horrible, undeniable truth, shattered something inside her. Sade slapped him hard, the crack echoing in the dining room. Hyansuk's head snapped to the side. Silence, thick and dangerous. Then he laughed, low and dangerous, turning back to her with a smile that was all teeth, all predator. Do it again. What? Hit me again, Sade. I like you angry. She slapped him again, and he caught her wrist, his smile widening. There she is. There's my fierce girl. I'm not yours. Yes. He pushed her back on the table, his body covering hers, plates crashing to the floor. You are. They came together with desperate fury, both trying to hurt the other, both needing to prove something. Hyansuk shoved her dress up, tore her underwear, the sound of fabric ripping obscene in the quiet apartment. His belt hit the floor with a clatter, and then he was inside her with one brutal thrust that made her cry out. You can hate me all you want, he growled against her throat, his hips snapping forward with punishing force. But your body doesn't lie. Sade's nails raked down his back, and he groaned with pleasure rather than pain. Feel that? Feel how you are for me? How perfectly you take me. She hated that he was right, hated the pleasure building despite the anger, despite the confusion. His hand fisted in her curls, pulling her head back, exposing her throat. The slight pain made her clench around him. Say my name, Sade. No. He angled, hitting that spot inside her that made stars burst behind her eyes. Say my name. Hyansuk tore out of her, helpless and desperate. Again. Say it like you mean it. Hyansuk, she gasped, the informal address slipping out unbidden. That's my good girl. Mine. He drove into her harder, chasing his own release, his control finally fracturing. Say you're mine. I'm... The release hit before she could finish, and she screamed his name like a prayer or a curse. She didn't know which anymore. Hyansuk followed with a shout, claiming her again, marking her as his. Afterward, in the wreckage of dinner and torn clothing, Sade cried. The tears came before she could stop them, overwhelming and devastating. All the fear and confusion and unwanted desire crashing over her at once. Hyansuk stilled above her. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain, almost vulnerable. He pulled away carefully and gathered her in his arms, carrying her to the bedroom like she was something precious, something that might break. He set her on the bed and wiped her tears with his thumbs, his touch gentle in a way she didn't know he was capable of. I'm sorry, he said quietly, and the rawness in his voice made her chest ache. For what? For making you feel anything for a man like me. His voice was rough, broken around the edges. You deserve better, Sade. Then he left the room, and Sade lay alone in his bed, wrapped in his scent, carrying his child maybe, and didn't know whether to scream or cry harder. If you're still watching, drop a comment and tell me, have you ever felt trapped between what you want and what you think you should want? This story is about to get even more intense, so don't click away now. She found him later, sitting in his office in the dark, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. She should have left him there, should have gone back to bed. But something pulled her forward. Instead, Sade crossed the room and stood in front of him. The city lights from the window cast shadows across his face, making him look younger, more vulnerable. I do feel it, she whispered. I do forget to hate you, and it terrifies me. Hyansuk looked up at her, his dark eyes wounded in a way she'd never seen, raw and exposed. I didn't plan this. His voice was barely audible. Falling for you? That wasn't part of the deal. Falling for me? He stood, set the glass down with a soft click, and cupped her face with both hands like she was something precious. You consume me, Sade. Every thought, every breath. I went into this wanting an heir. Now I want you more than I want my next heartbeat, and I don't know what to do with that. She kissed him then, soft and seeking, asking questions she didn't have words for, and he responded with a tenderness that made her chest ache. His lips moving against hers with reverence rather than possession. They made love on his office floor, slow and sweet and devastating, whispering truths they'd both been trying to hide. His touch was different now, gentle, worshipful, like he was trying to memorize every inch of her skin. And when he finally slid inside her, it wasn't taking. It was giving, sharing, becoming something more than the sum of their broken parts. After, wrapped in each other on the floor, Hyansuk's phone buzzed. He ignored it the first time, the second time, the third time, then he cursed and reached for it. Sade saw the text over his shoulder before he could angle the screen away. Asterisk, I don't care if Jae-sung suspects something. She's mine now. He can't touch her. Asterisk. She went still, ice flooding her veins. Who's Jae-sung? Hyansuk's face shuttered closed, that vulnerable man disappearing behind the mask. No one. Business. You just said he can't touch me. Drop it, Sade. Like hell I will. She sat up, pulling on his shirt to cover herself. Who is Nam Jae-sung? And why would he want to touch me? Hyansuk ran a hand through his wavy hair, looking suddenly exhausted. My cousin. The one trying to take my company. He's been asking questions about you. About why I bought your debt. I think he knows about our arrangement. Cold dread settled in Sade's stomach like lead. What does that mean? It means I protect what's mine. Hyansuk pulled her back against his chest, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the world. And you're mine, Sadia. No one touches you. No one hurts you. I'll burn everything down first. The possessiveness should have scared her. Should have reminded her this was a transaction. A business deal, 30 days and nothing more. Instead, wrapped in his arms, feeling his heartbeat against her back, Sade felt safe. On day 10, Hyansuk took her to a charity gala at the Shilla Hotel. Sade wore a blue slip silk gown that clung to every curve, diamonds at her throat and ears, all purchased with his black card. His hand stayed possessively on her lower back the entire car ride, his thumb stroking small circles that made heat pool low in her belly. You're beautiful, he murmured against her ear, his breath warm and intimate. Every man in that room is going to want you, and they're all going to know you're mine. The gala was everything Sade expected from Seoul's elite. Wealth on obscene display, champagne flowing like water, people in designer clothes discussing billion-won donations like pocket change. The whispers started the moment they walked in. Who is she? Is that Nam Hyun-seok's girlfriend? He never brings women to events. I heard she's Nigerian. How exotic. The last comment, whispered by a woman in Chanel with poorly concealed disdain, made Sade's spine stiffen. But Hyansuk heard it too. His hand tightened on her waist, and he turned, fixing the woman with a look that could have frozen the Han River. My wife, he corrected, his voice carrying just enough for nearby guests to hear, is the most accomplished woman in this room. She built a tech company from nothing while most of you were spending daddy's money. Show some respect. The woman's face went pale, and she scurried away. Sade looked up at Hyansuk in surprise. Wife, we're registered, he said simply, referring to the contract. Might as well use the correct term. But there was something in his eyes. Pride, possessiveness, something deeper that made her heart skip. They were talking to a board member's wife when Sade felt eyes on her. Heavy, assessing, hungry in a way that made her skin crawl. She turned. A man stood across the room watching them. He was handsome in a way that was almost pretty, refined features, perfectly styled hair, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her first car. But there was something cold in his eyes, something calculating that made every instinct scream danger. He raised his champagne glass to her in a mock toast, and something about his smile made her stomach turn. That's Jae-sung, Hyansuk said quietly, his voice gone deadly soft. His hand on her waist had become almost bruising. Stay close to me. But Jae-sung was already approaching, moving through the crowd with practiced charm, his smile never reaching his eyes. Hyung, he said smoothly, using the term for older brother with just enough mockery to make it an insult. What a lovely surprise. And who is this vision? Hyansuk's voice could have cut glass. None of your concern, Jae-sung. Jae-sung's smile widened, and he turned to Sade, extending a hand. Those cold eyes traveled over her body with calculated interest. Dance with me. No, Hyansuk said flatly. I wasn't asking you, Hyung. Those calculating eyes never left Sade's face. One dance. Surely you're not so insecure you can't share for 3 minutes. It was a challenge, a test. And Sade, still angry at Hyansuk from the other night, still confused by her feelings, made a mistake. She took Jae-sung's hand. One dance. Hyansuk's face went cold, carved from ice, fury radiating from him in waves. Sade, it's just a dance, she said. But she felt his fury like a physical thing as Jae-sung led her to the dance floor. Jae-sung was a good dancer, smooth and graceful, his hand respectfully placed on her waist. Professional, unthreatening. You're even more beautiful up close, he said as they swayed to the music. His voice was cultured, gentle. Tell me, how much is my cousin paying you to play his wife? Sade stiffened. Excuse me? Oh, come now. His smile was kind, sympathetic, deadly. Hyansuk doesn't do relationships. He's too damaged for that. Whatever arrangement you have, just know he'll discard you the moment you're no longer useful. He did it to his wife. The world tilted. Her feet stumbled, but Jae-sung caught her smoothly. His wife. Song Mijin. He hasn't mentioned her? Jae-sung's voice dripped false sympathy. They were married for 3 years. She died in a car accident along with their unborn son. Tragic, really. Hyansuk was never quite the same after. He twirled her gently, and Sade felt dizzy, disoriented. Just be careful, Sade. My cousin collects broken things. And when they're no longer interesting, he throws them away. Before she could respond, Hyansuk cut in, his hand on her wrist hard enough to bruise. We're leaving. Hyansuk, you're hurting me. He didn't release her until they were in the car. The privacy screen up, speeding through Seoul's glittering streets. The silence was suffocating, dangerous. In the penthouse, Sade rounded on him. What the hell was that? You manhandled me like I'm property. You are my property. Hyansuk bit out, fury making his voice shake. For 20 more days. The words hit like acid. Is that what your wife was too? Hyansuk froze, his back to her. When he turned, his face was a mask, carefully blank. What did he tell you? That you had a wife. That you discarded her. That you collect broken things and throw them away. Sade's voice shook with hurt and anger. Is it true? For a long moment, Hyansuk said nothing. Then, in a voice devoid of all emotion, her name was Song Mijin. We married young. Too young. She got pregnant 2 years in. I was happy for the first time in my life. His jaw clenched. Then one night, she was driving home from a dinner party. Her brakes failed on a hill near Namsan. The car went into a ravine. They found her body 3 days later. Our son died with her. He would have been 5 now. Tears pricked Sade's eyes, hot and immediate. Hyansuk, I'm so sorry. He held up a hand, cutting her off. Don't pity me. I don't want your pity, Sade. His voice cracked slightly. He stopped himself, then crossed to her in 3 strides, backing her against the wall, his body caging hers. I want this. He kissed her desperately, hungrily, like he was trying to devour his pain and hers. Like if he could just get close enough, deep enough inside her, he could forget everything else. I want you, he breathed against her lips. Not as a transaction. Not as a replacement for what I lost. You. His hands tangled in her curls, tilting her head back, and the desperation in his touch made her ache. Just you. Sade kissed him back with equal desperation, her fingers digging into his shoulders. They shed clothes between frantic kisses, a trail of silk and expensive fabric leading to the bedroom. Hyansuk pressed her against the wall, lifted her, and she wrapped her legs around his waist. You have no idea what you do to me. He groaned against her neck, moving with desperate rhythm. I could have you every hour of every day and still want more. He took her against the wall, hard and fast and desperate, then carried her to the bed, laid her down and made love to her slower, deeper, his eyes locked on hers. Tell me you love me, he whispered, his voice breaking, vulnerability bleeding through. Just for tonight. Lie to me if you have to. Sade cupped his face, feeling her heart crack open. Everything she'd been trying to protect spilling out. I love you. He came with a shudder, breathing her name like a prayer, and afterward held her so tight she could barely breathe. I didn't choose you because you remind me of her, he whispered into the darkness. I swear, Sade, this is about you. Only you. Later, while Sade showered, Hyansuk opened the drawer of his nightstand. Inside was a silver locket. He opened it with trembling fingers, staring at the photo inside. A woman with delicate features, smiling at the camera with joy in her eyes. She looked hauntingly like Sade but different. He closed the locket and hid it again, guilt eating at him like acid. Before continue, can love built on lies ever become real? The answer might surprise you. Don't miss what happens next. Keep watching. On day 15, halfway through their arrangement, Hyansuk came home early with a strange expression on his face. Pack a bag, he said. We're going somewhere. Where? You'll see. They drove for an hour, leaving Seoul behind, heading into the mountains. And when they finally pulled up, Sade's breath caught. Her office building, the startup she'd built from nothing. But it looked different. The exterior had been repainted, new signage gleaming in the afternoon sun. Through the windows, she could see new equipment, upgraded workstations, everything restored and better than before. You did this? She whispered, tears streaming down her face. Hyansuk came to stand beside her, his hand finding hers. You'll get it back in 15 days. I wanted you to have something worth coming back to. Sade turned to him, overwhelmed by the gesture, by the care it represented. Why? Why would you do this? For once, Hyansuk's mask slipped completely. He looked vulnerable, almost afraid. Because you love this place. And He stopped, swallowed hard. I'm falling for you, Sade. And I don't know how to stop. Her heart stuttered, hope and fear warring in her chest. Say it again. I'm falling for you. He shook his head, a rueful smile tugging at his lips. No, that's a lie. I've already fallen. I'm in love with you, and I don't know what to do with that. Sade kissed him, soft and sweet, tasting salt from both their tears. I love you too. God help me. I love you too. They made love in her office that night, on the couch where she'd spent so many late nights building her dream. Hyansuk was gentle, reverent, worshipping every inch of her skin with his hands and mouth. I want a future with you, he whispered against her stomach, pressing kisses to her soft skin. Not because of the contract, because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Sade's hands trembled as she touched his face, tracing the sharp lines of his jaw. What are you saying? Stay after the 30 days. Be with me. Let's make this real. He kissed her softly, his lips moving against hers with tender promise. What if we actually tried for this baby? Not as part of a deal, but because we both want it. His hand splayed over her stomach, and she felt the weight of possibility there. I want to see you round with my child, Sade. Want to watch you grow. Be there for every moment. I want to be a father to this child, if there is one, and a partner to you. A real one. Sade felt something break open in her chest, hope and terror warring. I'm scared. So am I. He kissed her again, deeper this time. But I've never been more sure of anything. Stay with me, Sade. Choose me. Sade, breathless and undone by his words, kissed him softly. Ask me again in 15 days. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. She smiled through tears. But it's not a no. Hyansuk held her close, and for the first time since Mijin died, he let himself hope. Neither of them saw the shadow outside the window. Neither saw the phone camera capturing their silhouettes against the office lights. Jae-sung smiled as he reviewed the photos, already composing the message he'd send tomorrow. Asterisk TikTok, Hyung. Hope she's worth losing everything for. Asterisk. Day 18 arrived with sunshine that felt like a lie. Bright and cheerful when Sade's stomach had been knotting itself into impossible shapes since dawn. Hyansuk had suggested it over breakfast, his hand covering hers across the marble table, those dark eyes softer than she'd ever seen them. Let me meet him properly. Let me spend time with Taiwo. If we're doing this, if we're building something real, I want to know your son. Now, standing on Uedo Hangang Park Beach with the Han River stretching endlessly before them, watching Hyansuk crouch in the sand beside her 6-year-old, Sade felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling to dust. Taiwo had been suspicious at first, hiding behind her legs when they arrived. But Hyansuk had knelt to his level and said with complete seriousness, Your Ama tells me you're an expert on Pokemon. I need some advice. If Charizard fought Blastoise, who would win? Taiwo had considered this with the gravity of a scholar. What terrain? Hyansuk had smiled, genuine and warm. Land. Charizard. Better fire attacks. Then, after a pause, are you Ama's boyfriend? Sade had frozen, but Hyansuk handled it with grace. I'm your Ama's friend, and I'd like to be yours too, if that's okay with you. Taiwo had studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but you have to help me find pretty rocks. Deal. Now, 2 hours later, Hyansuk was building an elaborate sandcastle complete with moat, while Taiwo directed the construction with the authority of a tiny architect. No, the tower needs to be higher. Dragons need space. Hyansuk adjusted the tower without argument. His expensive clothes covered in sand. His wavy hair mussed by the wind. And Sade's heart did something dangerous in her chest. He caught her watching and smiled. That rare, unguarded smile that made him look years younger. That made her forget he was a ruthless billionaire who'd orchestrated her husband's destruction. In this moment, he was just a man playing with her son, and she had to look away before she said something she couldn't take back. They bought ice cream from a vendor, chocolate for Taiwo, vanilla for Sade. Hyansuk ordered something with salted caramel that Taiwo eyed with interest. Without hesitation, Hyansuk switched cones with him. Try it. If you like it better, it's yours. Taiwo took a careful lick, his eyes widening. It's good. Then it's yours. Hyansuk took the chocolate without complaint. The casual generosity of it, the easy way he made her son smile, made Sade want to cry. Later, while Taiwo hunted for pretty rocks along the waterline, Hyansuk pulled Sade against his chest, his arms wrapped around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. He's incredible. You've done an amazing job with him. I had help. My sister Yawanda. My parents before they passed. Still, his hand splayed possessively over her stomach. I hope ours is like him. Sade covered his hand with hers, the gesture intimate and natural. You really want this? Not just an heir for the company, but an actual child. Midnight feedings and tantrums and parent-teacher conferences. I want it all. He turned her in his arms, his dark eyes fierce with emotion. I want to see you round with my baby. I want to feel them kick. I want to pace hospital floors and argue about names and wake up to a house full of noise and life. His voice dropped, becoming rough with emotion. I want to marry you properly, not some rushed registry office transaction. I want Taiwo to be mine too, if he'll have me. I want a family, Sade. With you. She kissed him there on the beach with the sun warm on their faces and the sound of her son's laughter carrying on the wind, and let herself believe it might be possible. That night, after they dropped Taiwo back with Yewanda, the ride to the penthouse was quiet. Hyansuk held her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her wrist, but Sade could feel tension radiating off him in waves. Inside, he pulled her immediately to the bedroom, his mouth finding hers with desperate hunger. I can't stop thinking about it, he growled against her lips, already pulling at her clothes. You, me, Taiwo, a baby, a real family. He stripped her efficiently, reverently, then laid her on the bed and knelt between her thighs, and Sade flushed under his hungry gaze. Beautiful, he murmured, his voice rough with desire. Every part of you. Then his mouth was on her, tongue and lips working with devastating skill. Hyansuk took his time, bringing her to the edge again and again, but never letting her fall, until she was shaking and pleading. Hyansuk, please. I need. What do you need, baby? His voice was dark silk and sin. Tell me. You. Inside me. Please. They both groaned at the sensation, the feeling of coming home. I love you, he said, his forehead pressed to hers. I love you so much, Sade. I love you too, she gasped as he seated himself fully. After, wrapped in his arms, Sade felt peace settle over her like a blanket. Everything was going to be okay. They would make it work. In 12 days, the arrangement would end, and their real life would begin. She didn't see Hyansuk's phone light up on the nightstand. Didn't see the text that made his jaw clench even as he held her closer. Enjoying your little family fantasy. Hyung? Pity it's built on lies. Does she know the whole truth yet? Tick-tock. Day 22 dawned gray and cold. Seoul's typical autumn, weather settling in with a vengeance. Hyansuk left early for an emergency board meeting, kissing Sade deeply before he went. I'll be back by lunch. Don't miss me too much. She'd smiled against his lips. I'll try to contain myself. Now, alone in the vast penthouse, Sade wandered restlessly. She'd been trying to write Taiwo a letter, something to explain everything when the 30 days were over, but the words wouldn't come. She needed paper, a nice pen, something better than the notepad by the kitchen phone. Hyansuk's office seemed like the logical place to look. She'd been in there before, perched on his desk while he worked, but she'd never gone through anything. Felt like a violation. But surely he wouldn't mind if she just grabbed some stationery. The main desk drawers held the usual pens, paper clips, business cards. She found good paper in the second drawer and was about to leave when she noticed the bottom drawer was slightly ajar. Not locked like it usually was. The lock mechanism was visible, but someone had left it open. Sade knew she should walk away, knew she should respect his privacy. But something made her pull the drawer open fully. Inside were file folders. She recognized her name on one and pulled it out with trembling hands. The first page was a surveillance photo of her and Taiwo at the park, dated 6 months before Minho's death. Her blood went cold. She flipped through more photos. Dozens of them. Her shopping for groceries, playing with Taiwo at the beach, working in her office late at night. All dated months before Hyansuk had appeared at the river. Underneath the photos were financial records. Minho's gambling debts, itemized and detailed. But these weren't collection notices. These were transaction records. Payments made by someone named Nam Hyun-seok to a private gambling den called the Crimson Room. Dates and amounts, all corresponding to the nights Minho had told her he was working late. Then she found the contract. Not their contract, the one she'd signed. A different one. Dated 8 months ago. Her hands shook so badly she could barely read it. But certain phrases leaped out like accusations. Party A, Nam Hyun-seok. agrees to facilitate the systematic financial destruction of Kwon Min-ho through rigged gambling at the Crimson Room Private Denver. Party B, Nam Hyun-seok, agrees to compensate Party A with the sum of 200 million KRW upon successful acquisition of target debt. Target subject, Sade Adeyemi, will be rendered financially desperate and therefore amenable to alternative arrangements. The paper slipped from her fingers. Sade stared at it on the floor, her vision tunneling, the room spinning around her. They'd planned it. Hyansuk and Jae-sung, working together, had deliberately destroyed Min-ho, had driven him to such desperation that she ran to the bathroom and vomited. When Hyansuk came home 2 hours later, cheerful and bearing takeout from her favorite restaurant, Sade was sitting in his office chair. The contract lay on the desk in front of her. Her face was white as bone. He froze in the doorway, the bag of food falling from his hands. "Sade, you did this." Her voice sounded far away, hollow. "You and Jae-sung, you destroyed Min-ho together. This whole time you've been lying to me. Don't go anywhere. What Sade discovers next will change everything. If you're feeling this pain with her, drop a comment and let me know. Hit that like button and subscribe, you won't want to miss the final part. #bound by contract, freed by love part 3. Hyansuk carefully set down the takeout bags, his movements controlled, measured. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" She stood, the chair skittering back. "That you orchestrated my husband's gambling addiction? That you systematically ruined him so you could swoop in and buy me? That every single thing about us has been a lie from the very beginning." "Not everything." He took a step toward her, hands raised like he was approaching a wounded animal. "Sade, yes, I planned the acquisition. Yes, I manipulated the situation. But falling in love with you, that was never part of the plan. You have to believe me." "Believe you?" She laughed, the sound jagged and broken, scraping her throat raw. "You've been watching me for months. You engineered my husband's death. He wasn't supposed to kill himself." Hyansuk's voice went hard, defensive. "He was weak, Sade. I just accelerated his self-destruction. He made those choices. You gave him no choice." She was screaming now, all her control shattering like glass. "You set up the games. You made sure he'd lose. You drove him to such desperation that he saw no way out. And you did it to get to me." "Yes." His own control broke, fury and guilt warring in his voice. "Yes, I did it to get to you. Because I wanted you and I take what I want. But that doesn't change what we have now. What we've built together." Sade stared at him, this beautiful monster she'd let into her bed, her body, her heart. "What we built is a lie. Everything is a lie. The beginning was a lie." He crossed to her quickly, gripping her shoulders hard enough to bruise. "But us, what we have now, that's real, Sade. When I tell you I love you, I mean every word." She shoved him away, fury giving her strength. "How can I ever believe you? How can I trust a single word out of your mouth when everything was calculated? I trusted you." Her voice broke, tears spilling hot down her cheeks. "I let you touch me, let you inside my body, inside my heart. And it was all built on lies and manipulation and my husband's corpse." Hyansuk flinched like she'd struck him. "Sade, please. Did you choose me because I look like her?" The question came out quiet, deadly. "Mijin, Jae-sung said I look like your dead wife. Is that why you wanted me?" For a moment, just a moment, something guilty flashed across Hyansuk's face. It was enough. Sade felt something inside her die. "Get away from me. Sade, get away from me." She was crying now, huge gasping sobs. I can't look at you right now. I can't." Hyansuk's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his jaw tight with restraint. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to leave me alone. I want." She pressed her hands to her face, trying to hold herself together. "I need you to not touch me. Not tonight. I can't." His face went carefully blank, that mask sliding back into place. "I'll sleep in the guest room." He started to leave, then turned back, and the raw pain in his eyes nearly undid her. Sade, I know you don't believe me right now, but I love you. That's not a lie. That's the only true thing in my entire goddamn life. He paused at the door, his hand on the frame. We're not done. I'm not letting you go. Then he left, and Sade collapsed on his office floor, surrounded by evidence of his betrayal, and cried until she had nothing left. In the guest room, Hyansuk pulled out his phone with shaking hands and called Jae-sung. His cousin answered on the first ring, amusement clear in his voice. Trouble in paradise, Hyung? What did you do? Hyansuk's voice was deadly quiet. Me? Jae-sung laughed. I simply visited yesterday while you were at the office. Had a lovely chat with your assistant. Charmed my way into your office for a moment. You really should lock your drawers properly, Hyung. You left it open. You wanted her to find it. I wanted her to know the truth. Jae-sung's voice hardened. You're getting soft, Hyansuk. Playing house with your little widow, forgetting what matters, the company, the legacy. You think the board will accept her? The wife of a man we drove to suicide. We. Hyansuk's laugh was bitter. I have records too, Jae-sung, of your involvement. If I go down, you're coming with me. But you won't go down because you're Nam Hyun-seok, the untouchable bastard who always wins. A pause. Enjoy your last 8 days, Hyung. I'll be ready to take over when you fail. The line went dead. Hyun-seok sat in the darkness, his head in his hands, and wondered if he'd finally destroyed the only good thing he'd ever had. In the master bedroom, Sade cried herself to sleep, one hand pressed to her stomach where Hyun-seok's child might already be growing. The next morning was agony. They moved around each other like ghosts, not speaking, not touching. Hyun-seok made coffee. Sade pretended to drink it. He left for work without kissing her goodbye for the first time in weeks, and the absence of that ritual felt like a wound. Sade spent the day in a fog, trying to process, trying to understand. He'd engineered everything. Her desperation, her vulnerability, her complete dependence on him. He'd manufactured the perfect trap, and she'd walked right into it. But the other things, the renovated office, the gentleness with Taiwo, the way he looked at her like she was his entire world. Could someone fake that? On day 23, she felt nauseated. Day 24, the nausea got worse. Day 25, she could barely keep anything down. Sade stared at the pregnancy test box in the pharmacy bag for a full 10 minutes before she could make herself open it. 3 minutes later, she stared at the 2 pink lines and felt her world tilt on its axis. Pregnant. She was carrying Hyun-seok's child. The child he'd orchestrated everything to create. The heir he needed to save his company. The baby that was part of a transaction, a business deal, a calculated move in a game she hadn't even known she was playing. But also the baby she'd let herself want. The future she'd let herself dream about. Sade sat on the bathroom floor, one hand pressed to her still flat stomach, and tried to decide if this was a blessing or a curse. She was still sitting there when the penthouse door burst open. She heard raised voices, footsteps, and scrambled to her feet. In the living room, Jae-sung stood with 2 security guards and 2 men in expensive suits. Lawyers, she guessed. Jae-sung smiled when he saw her, cold and triumphant. Sade SSI. Or should I say Nam Sade? Though I don't think that registry office ceremony really counts. Does it? His eyes dropped to the pregnancy test she was still clutching. Well, interesting timing. Sade's hand instinctively covered her stomach. What are you doing here? Nam Hyun-seok is hereby removed as CEO of Nam Technologies. Effective immediately. One of the lawyers stepped forward, reading from a document. The board voted this morning. Unanimous decision. Failure to produce confirmed heir within the agreed timeframe. Controlling interest now transfers to Nam Jae-sung per company bylaws. The world spun. What? Jae-sung's smile widened. Hyun-seok needed proof of conception by day 30. It's day 25, and he's got nothing. He nodded at the test. Well, he might have something now. But is it real? How do we know it's his? How do we know you're not lying to save his empire? I'm not lying. Doesn't matter. Jae-sung gestured to the guards. This penthouse is corporate property. You have 1 hour to vacate. You can't just. I can and I am. He pulled out his phone, showed her a live video feed, and Sade's heart stopped. Taiwo, her son, bound and gagged in what looked like a warehouse, tears streaming down his terrified face. Sade screamed. Your sister's apartment has such poor security, Jae-sung said conversationally. Amazing what you can accomplish with a few million won and a distracted babysitter. You monster. Sade lunged at him, but one of the guards caught her easily. He's 6 years old. He's a child. He's leverage. Jae-sung's voice went cold. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to confirm that pregnancy test is fake. You're going to tell the board Hyansuk failed. And if you do exactly what I say, you'll get your son back unharmed. Where is Hyansuk? Sade's voice shook. Emergency board meeting. Should be done right about. Jae-sung checked his watch. Now. The elevator dinged. Hyansuk stepped out, his face thunderous, and took in the scene. Jae-sung, the lawyers, the guards holding Sade. His expression went deadly. Get your hands off her. The guards released Sade immediately. She ran to Hyansuk and he caught her, his arms coming around her protectively, his body shielding hers. What the hell is this, Jae-sung? A coup. Try to keep up. Jae-sung's smile was all teeth. The board voted you out. I'm CEO now. This penthouse is mine. And your little pet has information I need. Hyansuk's arms tightened around Sade. She's not telling you anything. Not even to save her son? Jae-sung showed him the video feed. Hyansuk went absolutely still. Sade felt every muscle in his body turn to stone. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it, and somehow more terrifying because of it. Release him. Now. Or what? Or I destroy you. Jae-sung laughed. You're not in a position to threaten anyone, Hyung. You failed. No heir, no company. It's over. Hyansuk looked down at Sade, at the pregnancy test still in her shaking hand. His eyes widened. Is that? She nodded, tears streaming. Yes, I'm pregnant, Hyansuk. Something blazing and possessive flashed across his face. He turned back to Jae-sung. I have proof of conception. She's pregnant. That's my heir. Now release her son or I'll. Proof. Jae-sung's eyes narrowed. How convenient. She just happened to test positive today, right when you need her to. For all I know, you paid her to lie. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Here's what's going to happen, Hyansuk. You'll sign over your remaining shares to me quietly, or I release the full contract. The one showing you conspired to drive an innocent man to suicide, to the press and the police. You'll be ruined. Jailed, probably. He turned to Sade. And you, sweetheart, I'll let you keep the company. You've suffered enough. But that baby you're carrying, if it's even real, that's still a Nam heir. Might be useful down the line. Before you click away, ask yourself this: how far would you go to protect the people you love? Even if it meant sacrificing everything? Stay with me. The next few minutes will change everything. Hyansuk's hand found Sade's, squeezed hard. You have 24 hours, Jae-sung. That's it. No, Hyung. You have 24 hours. Sign the papers or I destroy you both. Jae-sung gestured to his lawyers and guards. Let's go. This is boring. They filed out, leaving Hyansuk and Sade alone in the suddenly cavernous penthouse. The silence was deafening. He has my son. Sade's voice was barely a whisper. I know. Hyansuk pulled her to the couch, his hands shaking as he cupped her face. Are you really? Are you pregnant? Yes. Fresh tears spilled over. His hand moved to her stomach, splaying possessively over where their child grew. My baby. The heir you needed. No, Hyansuk forced her to meet his eyes. Our baby. Yours and mine. Not a transaction. Not a chess piece. Ours. He's going to take Taiwo. He's going to take everything. No, he's not. Hyansuk's voice hardened. Listen to me, Sade. I know you're angry. I know I betrayed you. I know I don't deserve your help or your trust. But right now, we need to work together. Can you do that? Can you put aside what I did and help me get your son back and destroy my cousin? Sade looked at this man who'd orchestrated her husband's destruction, who'd manipulated her into his bed, who'd made her fall in love with him while lying through his teeth. She should hate him. Part of her did hate him. But he was also the father of her child. And Jae-sung had Taiwo. What do you need me to do? Relief flooded Hyansuk's face. He pulled her against his chest, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Did you record anything during Jae-sung's confession just now? Sade's mind raced. Her phone had been in her pocket. It had voice activation for emergencies. Oh God. She pulled out her phone with trembling hands, opened the recording app. A file from 15 minutes ago. She'd accidentally activated it. She played it back. Jae-sung's voice came through clearly. Asterisk, here's what's going to happen. You're going to confirm that pregnancy test is fake. You're going to tell the board Hyansuk failed. Asterisk. And later, you'll sign over your shares or I release the full contract. The one showing you conspired to drive an innocent man to suicide. Hyansuk's eyes blazed. You recorded him confessing to conspiring with me. I know it implicates you too, but it proves Jae-sung isn't innocent, that he was equally involved in Minho's destruction. Hyansuk started pacing, his mind clearly racing. We can use this. The board hates scandal. If we show them Jae-sung orchestrated this with me, that he's been manipulating everything from the start, including this coup, they'll vote him out too. Maybe. Probably. Hyansuk stopped, ran his hands through his wavy hair. But we need more. We need to get married properly, establish legal claim to the heir. We need medical confirmation of your pregnancy. We need leverage on where he's keeping Taiwo. He turned to her. Sade, I need you to trust me one more time. I know I don't deserve it, but please. She looked at him for a long moment. If we do this, if we fight together, I need the truth. All of it. No more lies. He sat down heavily, pulling her to sit beside him. When he spoke, his voice was raw, scraped clean of pretense. I chose you because you look like Mijin. Not exactly, but similar enough that when I saw your photo in the surveillance reports, it felt like fate. He looked at her, pain etched in every line of his face. I'd been watching your building for months, looking for investment opportunities. I saw you in your office one day and I couldn't look away. Sade's hands clenched in her lap. So I had you investigated. Found out about Minho's gambling, his debts. And I saw an opportunity. His voice dropped. I told myself I was just being smart, strategic. That acquiring the debt would be a good investment. But the truth is, I wanted you. From that first moment, I wanted you. And I'm a man who takes what he wants. Hyansuk looked at her, his dark eyes devastated. I orchestrated everything with Jae-sung. We set Minho up to fail. I knew it would break him, but I didn't care. I wanted you desperate enough to accept any offer I made. Even if it killed him. His voice cracked. He wasn't supposed to die. I swear, Sade. I thought he'd just run away or leave you or... I don't know. I didn't think he'd... He stopped, swallowed hard. His death is on me. I know that. I live with that every day. Why should I believe anything you say? Because I'm telling you the worst of me. The parts one wanted you never to know. He took her hand, pressed it to his chest where his heart was racing. I chose you for the wrong reasons, but I fell in love with you for the right ones. Your strength, your fierceness, the way you love Taiwo, the way you fight me at every turn. His thumb stroked across her knuckles. You're not Mijin. You're Sade, and I love you, not her ghost. I love you. Sade felt tears slip down her cheeks, hot and unbidden. I want to hate you. I know, but I can't. And I hate that I can't. Hyansuk pulled her into his arms, and she let herself sink into his warmth and his strength. Help me destroy Jae-sung. Help me get Taiwo back. Then if you want to leave, I'll let you go. I'll give you the company, the money, everything. I won't fight you for custody. I'll just... His voice broke. I'll let you go. And if I don't want to leave? His arms tightened. Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other while the city glittered below. both broken and desperate and clinging to each other like lifelines. Finally, Sade pulled back. "What's the plan?" Hyansuk's smile was sharp and dangerous. "We get married tonight, properly this time. Then tomorrow we see your doctor, get official confirmation of pregnancy. Then we go to the board with the recording and the proof, and we burn Jae-sung's world down." "What about Taiwo?" "I'm already on it." Hyansuk pulled out his phone, made a call. "Park, I need you to track a location. Video feed, probably cellular, coming from Jae-sung's phone." A pause. "Yes, I know it's illegal. I don't care. My son has been kidnapped and I need him found now." He hung up and looked at Sade. "Park used to work in intelligence. If anyone can find Taiwo, he can." "Your son," Sade said softly. "You called Taiwo your son." Hyansuk cupped her face. "If you'll let me be. I meant what I said on the beach, Sadya. I want to be a father to Taiwo. I want to be a husband to you. I want a family. A real one." She kissed him then, soft and seeking, and he responded with desperate tenderness. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Sade said, "Let's go get married then." Again. They were married 90 minutes later in a small chapel in Gangnam. The officiant was slightly confused by the urgency, but accommodating when Hyansuk slipped him 5 million won. Sade wore a simple white dress purchased from a boutique that was closing. Hyansuk wore his work suit. There were no guests, no flowers, no music. But when Hyansuk slid the ring on her finger, a gorgeous diamond that he'd apparently been carrying in his pocket for days, and said, "I don't deserve you, but I'll spend my life trying," Sade felt something settle in her chest. The kiss was soft and sweet and full of promise. "We should get you home," Hyansuk said, his hand finding her stomach again with that now familiar possessive gesture. "You need rest. You're pregnant, and you need to take care of yourself and our baby." The tenderness in his voice made her chest ache. "Hyansuk, yes, love? We're going to be okay, aren't we?" His arms tightened around her. "I'll make sure of it. I promise." The next morning, Hyansuk's phone rang at 6 a.m. Park's voice. "I found him. Warehouse in Guro district, near the old industrial complex. 2 guards. I've got eyes on the location." Hyansuk was out of bed in seconds. "Don't engage. Wait for police." He called his contacts, pulled strings, and within an hour, armed police were raiding the warehouse. Hyansuk and Sade waited in the car, her hand gripped so tight in his it hurt, until an officer emerged carrying Taiwo. Her son was crying, terrified, but unharmed. Sade was out of the car before it fully stopped, running to him. Baby, I'm here. Amma's here." Taiwo clung to her, sobbing. "There were bad men. They tied me up. I was scared." "I know, sweetheart. I know. But you're safe now." She looked up as Hyansuk approached, and something in her son's face changed. "You came," Taiwo said to Hyansuk, wonder in his voice. "The men said no one would come, but you did." Hyansuk knelt beside them. "Of course I came. You're my family, Taiwoya. I'll always come for you." Taiwo launched himself at Hyansuk, little arms wrapping around his neck, and Hyansuk caught him, holding him close. His eyes met Sade's over their son's head, and she saw tears there. Her family, broken and strange and built on lies, but hers. At 9 a.m. on day 29, Sade and Hyansuk walked into the Nam Technologies boardroom. 12 board members sat around a massive table, Jae-sung at the head with a satisfied smirk. Chairman Oh looked tired. "Nam Hyun-seok SSI, Nam Sade SSI. This is highly irregular." Hyunsuk set down a folder. "I have proof of conception. Medical confirmation from Dr. Park at Samsung Medical Center. Dated this morning. My wife is 3 weeks pregnant with my child. Within the deadline." Jae-sung leaned back. "How convenient. And how do we know the child is yours?" "She was married before. Her husband died 4 months ago. The timing makes it impossible for the child to be his." "The timing makes it impossible for the child to be his," Hyansuk said coldly. "But if you require DNA testing post-birth, I'm amenable." Murmurs around the table. Chairman Oh frowned. "This does complicate things. The vote yesterday was predicated on your failure to produce an heir. A vote orchestrated by my cousin through manipulation and lies. Hyansuk nodded to Sade. She stepped forward, hands shaking, and played the recording. Jae-sung's voice filled the room, damning and clear. You'll sign over your shares or I release the full contract. The one showing you conspired to drive an innocent man to suicide. The room erupted. Jae-sung's face went white, then red. That was taken out of context. Really? Hyansuk played a second recording, one Sade hadn't heard before. Jae-sung's voice? Drunk, bragging at what sounded like a club. Mijin's accident wasn't an accident. I cut her brake lines. Hyansuk needed to be broken to be controlled. Losing his wife and unborn child did the trick. Silence. Absolute, devastating silence. Hyansuk's voice was deadly quiet. You killed my wife. You killed my son. And you used their deaths to control me for 5 years. Jae-sung stood, knocking his chair back. You have no proof. That recording could be fake. The metadata shows date and location. The voice analysis confirms it's you. And I have security footage from the parking garage the night Mijin died, showing you near her car. Hyansuk's smile was terrifying. I've been building this case for months, Jae-sung. Ever since I realized the brake failure was too convenient. Chairman O stood. Nam Jae-sung SSI, you're hereby removed from this board and this company. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. The authorities have been notified. Police officers entered as if on cue. Jae-sung looked wildly around, trapped. His eyes landed on Hyansuk, full of hatred. You think you've won? She'll never forgive you. You're still the man who killed her husband. Hyansuk's hand found Sade's. I know, but she's standing here anyway. That's more than you'll ever have. As Jae-sung was led away in handcuffs, he lunged suddenly toward Sade. This is your fault. You're just a cheap replacement for a dead woman. Hyansuk moved faster than thought, his fist connecting with Jae-sung's jaw with a sickening crack. Jae-sung dropped. Don't you ever speak to my wife that way again. Security dragged Jae-sung out, still screaming threats. The board members looked shell-shocked. Chairman O cleared his throat. Nam Hyun-seok SSI, in light of new evidence, the board votes to reinstate you as CEO. All in favor. Unanimous. Thank you. Hyun-seok nodded curtly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to take my pregnant wife home. Outside in the car, Sade started laughing. Hysterical, relieved, exhausted laughter. Hyun-seok pulled her close, and she felt him shaking too. We did it, she said. You did it. That recording, your bravery. Standing with me after everything I did. He kissed her temple. You saved us, Sadia. We saved each other. That night in bed, Hyun-seok held her close, his hand on her stomach where their child grew. One more day. Tomorrow is day 30. The contract ends. I know. She turned in his arms. You could leave. Take Taiwo. Take the baby when they're born. Take the company and never look back. Or, Sade said softly, I could stay. Build a life with you. Raise our children together. Fight and love and make it work. Even knowing what I did? You're a monster. Nam Hyun-seok, she said, her voice tender. But you're my monster. And I choose you. Every day, I choose you. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and they made love slowly, tenderly, whispering promises in the dark. Months later, Sade stood in her office, her hands resting on her swollen belly. 9 months pregnant, glowing, happy. Below, she could hear Hyansuk and Taiwo playing in the courtyard, her husband teaching her son to play soccer. The company's relaunch had been a massive success. Fully funded for expansion, partnerships across Asia, articles in business magazines, everything she dreamed. Hyansuk had insisted she run it herself, had hired staff to help, had supported every decision. He appeared in the doorway, sand in his hair, smiling. Taiwo wants to know if the baby can play soccer when they're born. What did you tell him? That we'd teach them together. Hyansuk crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands covering hers on her belly. "Hello in there, it's your appa. I can't wait to meet you." The baby kicked, strong and insistent, and they both laughed. "They're active today," Sade said. "Like their ama." Hyansuk kissed her neck, his touch gentle and reverent. "I love you. Have I mentioned that today?" "Only 3 times. I'm slacking." He turned her in his arms, kissed her deeply. "I love you, Nam Sade. You and Taiwo and this little one. You're my entire world." "I love you too." She touched his face, still amazed sometimes that this was real. "Even when you're impossible." He knelt suddenly, lifting her shirt, pressing kisses to her rounded stomach. "I promise I'll be the father you deserve, little one. I'll protect you and love you and never let anything hurt you. You're so loved already, so wanted." Sade ran her fingers through his wavy hair, her heart full to bursting. They'd come so far from that rainy night on the Han River, built something real from lies and manipulation and desperate choices. It wasn't perfect. They fought sometimes, over his controlling nature, over her stubborn independence. But they always came back together, always chose each other. Hyansuk stood, pulled her close, and she felt safe, loved, home. The baby arrived on a snow-covered January morning, screaming her way into the world with Hyansuk's dark hair and Sade's honey-brown eyes. They named her Miniio, after Mijin and Sade's mother. When the nurse placed her in Hyansuk's arms, Sade watched her ruthless billionaire husband cry for the 2nd time since she'd known him. "She's perfect," he whispered, his voice wrecked with emotion. "She's absolutely perfect. She looks like you," Sade teased from the hospital bed, exhausted and elated. Hyansuk's eyes met hers, blazing with possessive heat even in this tender moment. "Her appa is a bastard who got incredibly lucky." He carefully placed Miniio in her bassinet, then crossed to Sade's bedside, leaning down to kiss her deeply. "Thank you for her, for Taiwo, for choosing to stay when you had every reason to leave. You've given me everything, Sade. Before you leave, tell me in the comments, did Sade make the right choice? Could you forgive someone who orchestrated the greatest tragedy in your life even though they also became your greatest love? If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who loves intense romance, and subscribe for more Afro-Korean soul stories every week. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself and I'll see you in the next story. Lots of love.